noticed a common theme in several of the videos I've made. I often show scenes like the digital seconds moving on an LCD watch, a spinning CD all lit up while playing, the gentle glow of vacuum tubes, a cassette door automatically closing and the tape in motion itself, and of course the jumping bars from a vacuum fluorescent display on an equalizer or tape deck. So when it comes to technology, apparently I gravitate towards two elements, movement and light. And when I started to think about why that is, I realized that one of my earliest memories of technology is this, a toaster. So today I'm going to explore the origin of my affinity for movement and light with the unlikely device that started it all for me, the Sunbeam Radiant Control Toaster. So what exactly do I mean by movement and light? Well, this. When you drop the bread in, it lowers into the toaster automatically. That is the movement part. And then of course after that, it begins to toast and it lights up really bright, and that's the light part. So for whatever reason, I have always been enamored by the light and movement of this toaster. And that all began here in this room when I was a kid. This is a photo of my grandmother's house, and there she is right there. And on this table is where we would have breakfast, and in the very back, this is the best picture I could find of it, but underneath this cover is the Sunbeam Radiant Control Toaster. Now the toaster that I have for this video is not the exact same one. It is the same model, and I believe it's probably of the same year, maybe 1976. This photo here says 1978, but definitely the one I have is from the 70s. But this is in fact where I used to essentially play with the toaster when I was a kid. And it in fact was that photo that I saw in a photo album that made me think of the toaster, and then of course I went down the rabbit hole on the internet, and there are some great videos already out there on this toaster, but I thought I would add my 2 cents about it since this is the origin that kind of started it all for me. So the origin of this toaster started in 1949 and ran all the way through 1997. Now I don't remember too many of these in the 90s, and I'll be honest, I don't even remember my grandparents having it past maybe like 85. But what makes this toaster cool is, well, besides the bread automatically rising and lowering when it's starting or finishing, it's actually the radiant control portion that makes it cool. And here, just let me read it for you. The toasting is always the same no matter what kind of bread you use. The heat radiated from the surface of the bread actuates the exclusive radiant control thermostat. That's why you always get the same uniform golden toast you want, whether the slices are moist or dry, cold or warm, thick or thin. Only the Sunbeam has it. And you can clearly see they're pointing to the radiant control, which is essentially a bimetallic strip that when it gets hot enough, it actuates the thermostat, it clicks it off, and then the bread rises up. And that's all done mechanically. There's no motors in there that makes it go up and down. It's just a counterbalance on a lever. So I'm going to be making a lot of toast right now, and I'm going to be using white bread, an English muffin, hamburger bun, some rye bread. But there's something I wanted to show you before I get into the heart of that, and that's this. Notice how many times I'm going to have to try and drop this slice of white bread into the slot there. It does go down on the third one. I drop it pretty high. And I remember doing that a lot as a kid at my grandparents. And I didn't know this, and I suppose they didn't, that you can actually adjust the sensitivity of the thermostat and the mechanics itself that make it go up and down. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you that right now, and then I'm going to get back into toasting. So here's how you can do that. So if you turn the toaster on the side here, there's a little hole at the bottom, and you get a 3/32 hex Allen key, and it can be a little tough to get it in there, but this works in conjunction with the doneness slider on the front, and it basically controls the thermostat. So if you're trying to toast somewhere in the middle and it's getting either way too burned or not done enough, this is the part you want to adjust. And again, it kind of works in control with the up and down part, but this is for the doneness. Now when it comes to the springiness, so the toast pops up without any hesitation. I don't have this plugged in right now, by the way, but I have a spatula here and I'm just pushing on the, I guess, toast seat, And you can see how springy it is. That's really the springiness that you would want. And let me show you how to adjust that. There is some writing on the bottom of the crumb tray, and let me show you what that says. If bread will not lower, please do the following before returning for service. Unplug the toaster. Number 2, turn the screw 1/2 turn as shown, which is counterclockwise. And then 3, check the operation and repeat no more than 5 times. So I actually did this. I turned it a 1/2 turn counterclockwise, and that made it a lot better on the subsequent toastings I did. And also, just to show you, I just pulled the crumb tray open, and you can see the screw right there. That controls the inner part of the heating elements, which is what is the kind of the cool part that raises and lowers the lever to actuate the toast going up and down. And speaking of toast going up and down, let's get right into it. I'm going to, of course, start with classic white bread, and I'm going to start a timer right when I drop the bread into the slot. Now I'm doing this because I really want to show how the radiant control works on this toaster. If you look down there at the bottom, you can see that I've got the slider of doneness right in the middle between light and dark. And that's important because I'm going to toast a few different items, and you're going to see at the end that they all take different times, but the doneness comes out the same, and that's what's kind of the cool thing about this radiant control. It senses the doneness of the toast and stops it at the same spot, regardless of the bread item you've got inside. And there's the click. Obviously I sped that up towards the end, and looks like white bread comes in at a time of 1 minute and 28 seconds. Alright, up next is an English muffin with a false start, and that is a sentence I never thought I would ever say. Anyway, settings are all the same, as you can see, and let's see what happens here. And I also noticed, now that I've sped it up, that the English muffin continues to lower inside the toaster. I'm not sure why, maybe that's because of the heat, but anyway, it looks like we're clocking in an English muffin at 1 minute and 55 seconds. And up next is a hamburger bun, and you'll notice that this toaster was definitely made during an era where there was really only one size of bread, so you're not going to be able to really get a bun in here or even a bagel unless you smushed it down a little bit like I did there. But the really cool thing you're going to notice here is just how quickly this bun toasts. It only takes a matter of 42 seconds, and it can sense that it's already ready. And in fact, I can kind of hear the little pops and crackles of the sesame seeds on the bun. And finally, we have rye bread. And you'll remember how I mentioned that this toaster is from an era when only one size of bread seemed to exist. This rye bread is very wide, and it is edge to edge. It barely makes it in, but you can see I did get it in there. So even though that's a bit of a drawback for this kind of toaster, I think the cool factor clearly outweighs any of these limitations of bread size. And it looks like we've got rye bread clocking in at a time of 1 minute and 15 seconds. So what does this all mean, besides the fact that I used an awful lot of bread to prove a point in a video? Well, here you'll be able to see that all of the bread here is toasted at about the same doneness. And that's the really cool part about this toaster. And let me put all these times up against each other. And as you can see, the times vary rather wildly. It goes from almost 2 minutes at English muffin at 1:55, and the hamburger bun at 42 seconds. And I didn't change any settings. It has the radiant control sensor, and it keeps them all about the same level of doneness automatically. Now I do have a little bit of criticism for this toaster, and that is, besides the fact that it is a certain size and you can't really get anything wider than a regular piece of bread in there, the other part is occasionally, as you can see, there is some unevenness in the toasting. It's kind of negligible, but it almost depends on where the bread is seated near the heating elements while it's inside. But that's about it from the criticism. One thing I definitely like, though, is how hot this thing gets. So by comparison, my Cuisinart toaster, which is rated at 1800 watts, you can see about how bright this gets with its heating elements. Now side by side, you can clearly see the Sunbeam is really hot, and that's only at 1375 watts. Still, it is a hotter toast in my opinion when it comes out, and I just think it's better. So besides it having a lot of cool points and just looking awesome for a 50-year-old toaster, and the chrome looks great and this thing still functions perfectly fine, so even though I don't eat that much toast, I'm still going to use it. So what are my final thoughts? Like I mentioned earlier, the original Sunbeam Radiant Control Toaster is no longer in production, yet it remains a highly sought-after collector's item for vintage appliance enthusiasts, and even people feeling nostalgic for cool technology, like me. In fact, I received this toaster as a gift from my mom after I showed her that family photo along with a few YouTube videos and asked if she remembered her parents' toaster. She immediately remembered and then secretly went online and surprised me with this for my birthday. So for me, when it comes to movement and light, I'm happy that this innovative technology and timeless design have left a lasting legacy, not only on me, but for the world as well. I'm even amazed that I could be so intrigued by a toaster, but here I am with an 11-minute 4K video on this mid-20th century marvel. So if you'll excuse me, I'll get back to impressing my kids by making automatic toast. If you like what you saw, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks for watching.